Babe, don't make a sound. 2 a.m. love, gotta keep it down. Don't wait around for a signal now. Give me some verb, I ain't talking now. You wanna ride in the 6, you wanna dine in the 6. But when I lean for the kiss, you said I'll probably send you some pics. And I'm like, hell nah, been waiting too long. Hell nah, I want that cruel love. Hell nah, been waiting too long. Hell nah, I want that cruel love. Body on my, losing all my innocence. Yeah, body on my, finding all my innocence. Yeah, body on my, losing all my innocence. Yeah, body on my, finding all my innocence. Yeah, body on my, losing all my innocence. Yeah, body on my, finding all my.
Hi, thanks for weighing in with us in a world first. The son of a Reefton man fills in for the son of a Reefton man while I'm an apprentice on the show. It's my pleasure to be joined by some senior riders who helped grip the reins throughout the next hour, Bruce Sherwin and Michael Guerin. Bruce, I guess after Melbourne Cup Week and then New Zealand Cup Week, there's a chance that everything could kind of go flat in the racing industry, but we're able to count on counties for what was a really special day of black type racing yesterday.
Yeah, 4 black type races, Mark. Good morning, everybody. And there was a risk that the track was going to be a problem with the downgrade and a lot of rain to slow 7, but I thought some really good fields lined up and some really good racing.
What you needed, fellas, to start the Northern Summer Circuit. Good morning, everybody. Hope you had a good Saturday. Look, you hope when you come to these races, 2 things. You're going to have good competitive fields because you are launching this circuit which is going to go through Waikato and through Ellerslie and then back down to Wellington. It's a busy time of the year. More importantly, you're hoping the winners are going to be horses who matter heading forward. And when you go through the Cup and you go through Bostonian and the Bowl, the 2-year-old race, you saw a genuinely good horse. And then you also go through the fillies and mares race and you go, look, a lot of this form's going to stack up. It's going to matter. So you don't discard what you saw yesterday, fellas. And I think that's the crucial factor. As you said, the weather could have been a concern. As it turned out, looked a pretty fun day at the office.
Yeah, it certainly was. Some good pictures coming through. The track was downgraded to a slow 7 at 10:30, but we got through relatively unscathed, and we're going to dig a little deeper now, starting with the Group 2 and the Dunstan Feeds Auckland Thoroughbred Breeders Stakes here, Bruce.
Yeah, well, the Group 2, generally a good race, won previously by Sunline, so it's got a history behind it, and this was an upset. I didn't see this coming. Basu, back on the inside near last. It was only a sedate tempo. Sleeping Beauty coming over from the wide gate, controlling the tempo. Nicoletta up handy. Volpe Veloce caught 3 wide in the black colours. Wasn't a disadvantage, though, the way the day played. Basu, though, we didn't see many come through along the inside. And Mick, we haven't seen many horses come out to win a Group 2 after winning at Blenheim in April.
Well, the other thing we haven't seen much of is horses leaving Kevin Myers and improving. You know, this was a horse who knocked around the South Island a lot. Give you an indication. The horse 3 wide here is Volpe Veloce, of course, who won the Railway on January 1st last year. On January 7th last year, Basu ran 3rd of 7 in a rating 85 at Greymouth. So this time last year, this was impossible. And look, probably Volpe Veloce looms up to win here. You could make the case she wasn't entirely comfortable on the track, but actually a very similar track to the track she won the Railway on after rain on the day. But that might be being disingenuous to Basu because she's come from well back, off the tempo, beautiful ride, and punch through to beat a genuine Group 1 horse. And look, you've got to A, love the ride, but B, Nigel Tiley and Lee Tiley, what they've done with this horse, I mean, I'm not saying they've improved it on Kevin, but its performances are better at the moment. It's only had 2 races for them, and both of those super impressive. You start to wonder now whether, I mean, there's a nice race at Waikato in a couple of weeks, but is it a horse you could roll the dice and chuck in a Rich Hill Mile?
Did you not mention her win at Reefton and go for the 3rd at Greymouth because you'd heard Reefton twice already?
Well, I thought the Greymouth race was closer to the Railway. So that's 6 days after Volpe Veloce has won the Railway. She's run 3rd in an 85 at Greymouth. And if you had said to someone that day when she came off the track, oh, that horse won the Railway the other day, you'll beat that later this year, that would have been slightly hard to believe.
Well, we might have been surprised. What about the connections? Let's hear from Nigel Tiley and Andrew Corder.
Nigel, how many starts have you had Bisu Bisu?
No, just 2 starts.
She's made pretty good improvement.
Well, look, she was sort of racing down the sort of coast and Marlborough and places like that. But look, she's just settled in so well up here, and look, she hasn't taken a step backwards. So very happy with her.
Is it just a change of environment that sparked her?
Well, look, I would think that would be the case, you know. I think she's just sort of got her own box now and she's got her own feed bin and she's quite happy with that. But, look, she's a brave little girl, and the idea was to come up here, try and get some black type. And, you know, it's a plan that's worked.
Yeah, could you have hoped that you're a Group 2 winner today?
Well, look, I was hoping. I wasn't confident, but I was certainly hoping.
Yeah, she's measured up really well. Where do we see her from here?
Oh, look, I don't really know. We'll let the dust settle. I'm not sure whether she might even go to Brisbane next winter or something like that. But I guess, you know, we'll just keep chasing the black type while she's in form.
Yeah, she got back and running, and it did seem to be needing that clear run down the straight. What would you think of where you were in position?
Oh, look, I was quite happy where she was. I said to Andrew, just let her do her own thing early. But what I liked about Andrew's ride was he didn't come out and try and go round him. You know, he balanced her up and came through them. You know, the gaps came, and she did the rest.
Yeah, look, Nigel said to ride her cold and just let her come into the race and try and get on the back of something, and I was going pretty good round the corner behind Ewan, and when he popped off the fence, I just waited for the luck and sort of rode her through them. She was good to the line, and I still thought she was going to run a really nice 3rd or 4th with about 200 to go, but she just kept improving, and when she burst through that gap there, I knew she was going to be pretty competitive in the end.
For you personally, it's a real, you know, you're back here, you're winning group races again. It's a bit of a statement, isn't it?
Yeah, look, the last sort of month, rides have been coming my way and support's coming, so you need to get winners, and that's what's starting to happen, so really enjoying it.
Could she be a horse that takes you to another level as well?
Well, she could, you know, she's come from another stable, and she's feeling good and feeling happy and rejuvenated, so hopefully she's the sort of horse that could just keep improving, but she's a nice horse to ride, and yeah, she'll give me a good ride today.
Nice to do it at home. Congrats.
Thank you.
Andrew Calder there chatting to Aidan Rodley. It's quite a few years since I've been doing on-track work at Gallops meetings, but I do recall Andrew Calder being what I thought was a real professional young rider. And then, of course, he went to Macau, Bruce, and I guess out of all the people in New Zealand, you watching Macau racing, you might have seen more of Andrew Calder than we have the last few years.
Yeah, he's done well up there, but like racing's very much on a downer there at the moment. Quite depressed, and there's only 1 meeting a week and 6 races per meeting, so there's not a lot of racing there, so it's no surprise to see him come back, especially with wife Natasha and Natasha Collett formerly, and the young family, so ideal opportunity to come home, and good to see him get a Group 2 early.
Yeah, and nice fella, very professional up there, and they get very good at riding on the speed there. That was a totally different type of thing, so lovely timed ride. Just talking out of the race, Volpe Veloce, I thought maybe she peaked at the 100. Again, maybe the track was not perfect for her, but do you think the railway might be a little bit too sharp for her this season now?
I'm going to play the forgive card with that race. They've run slower than the benchmark 65 on the day, so I'm just not sure where that form's sitting.
But if she's going 1400 there, they freshen her up and take her back to a 1200?
Yeah, sure.
Because I reckon we're going to see shortly Bostonian in the sprint. We're going to see a horse who really opens up that market for the railway, because of course we know Melody Battle is also well in play there. But the Counties Cup, Rozzo, I thought this was another example of the horses on the minimum dominating our, I wouldn't say country cups, our cups from around the regions. And again, these two a long way from home, posied up in the 1-1 and on its back, Igraine, Mongolian Marshall. Gee, they had this one, and first and second a long way.
Just look at that compared to the previous race. All the actions one off the fence. Igraine's 1 out, 1 back, 4th. Very good ride from Sam Collett. Had a big day with a treble. She got this horse well positioned from gate 10. Mongolian Marshall follows her. He finishes 2nd. Kerry Alaison in 4th, follows Mongolian Marshall. The big run is Blue Breeze, 3 wide with cover, and ends up the widest round the turn in the predominantly white and pink colours, but looked a really good race on paper this. Igraine comes out of that trailing position, and these two horses really travel peaches and cream on the corner. Mongolian Marshall may have actually even got his head at front for a short time, which makes the merit of the win. It turns into a big win from Igraine. She really puts them away well this last 100 metres, loving the 2100 metres and probably further in time by Galileo. So there's a story behind this, as we'll talk on about shortly. Blue Breeze, very big, good from the back. Kerry Alays on 4th. Terra Sancta just might have needed that, loomed up and peaked on the run in 5th, but happy to follow her.
First 5 home carrying the 53. It's just a recurring theme again and again and again in our major handicaps and these country type cups that the horses on the minimum just keep winning them. Because the horses like the 5 to Midnights and the Mega Blast, as good as they are, you get up to that 59, 60 kilos, Rosso, you just can't cop it. But in saying that, there's more to this story than just the win of the second favourite carrying 53 kilos. This is a very, very good mare. We'll hear more about Igraine, how she ended up in New Zealand, and then discuss about whether this could be something we see more of in the future.
Sam rode a brilliant, just exactly what Robert said.
Exactly. We see Paul Moroney here, and of course he was the one who bought the horse out of Europe.
Yes, he did. Yeah, he selected quite a few for us. We had a look at the videos. She was one we liked, but we didn't think we'd get her, and he was able to buy her. So we're very proud of her and very proud of what Paul did for us.
Okay, so you brought her back here basically to be a broodmare. Is winning counties cups and these sort of types of races a bonus?
Absolutely. It's actually the second counties cup I've won. I won it with Boundless in 2009, so very happy.
Nice to do it again with another good one. What's the plan for her from here?
Well, she's not going to stud now. She's going to race for another year at least. So we'll see. You know, she's got plenty of racing in her, and so we'll keep going.
Yeah, massive.
Waikato Cup's next.
When she first arrived here at the trials, and she just really impressed me with the amount of speed she showed over a short trip. She's obviously bred to stay, and her form suggested that from overseas. And sort of a 900-metre trial earlier on, I was like, this could be something special. And I was lucky enough to ride her first up where she won, and things just didn't happen since then, but to be able to get back on is fantastic, and I ended up in a nice spot in the 1-1, and she just travelled like the winner the whole way, and full credit to her. She was headed by Mongolia Marshall, and she really picked herself up and kept fighting to the line.
Nice to be able to win these cups as well as any jockey would know.
Yeah, exactly. These big winners always, you know, really make you as a rider and things like that, and I've just been fortunate enough to get on a bit better horses now, and it just makes the job a bit easier.
Samantha Collett there, as Bruce mentioned, she had a big day with the treble. She also picked up a careless riding suspension 5 days up to and including December the 8th for the rider board Zapur in race number 6 on the card. Picking up on Michael's point there around the importing of this mare, Bruce, and the opportunity to see a whole lot more of this.
Yeah, absolutely. She's a daughter of Galileo. She's out of a German Oaks winner. She's a half to a Group 1 German winner. It's an amazing pedigree, and she's also been a revelation for Robert Prescott, and a trainer we don't hear a lot about these days, but he's been involved with some good horses over the years. Done a great job with this mare. 6 starts, a win and 4 wins and a couple of placings, and really good story.
Well, first stakes winner in New Zealand for Galileo, who's obviously the champion of Europe, and Paul Moroney sourced this horse, as we thought. First of all, Trelawney pays for the horse, so well done to them. They've rolled the dice and they've trusted Paul with that money. They bought 2 horses. He bought one the week after this at Deauville for them. But he's only paid 65,000 guineas, which is 130,000 New Zealand dollars. You land it back in New Zealand, it's about 30 grand to get him home. It's $160,000. Now, when you look at its page now, you go, how did he manage to do that? Now, it's easy to do that retrospectively because, you know, had she got over here and been a flop, it might be a different story, but she's now worth at least $500,000, probably more. And it's a funny thing about Paul. He's been around for so long, and you get so used to him being around that you can take for granted what he does. I bumped into him at the ARC sale in Paris, and I said, "Oh, are you looking forward to the race day tomorrow?" He said, "No, I'm not going to be here." He went to the sale and left first thing in the morning to go look at more horses at a different sale. And this is all he does. It's all he ever does is just go from sale to sale to sale. And he was on track yesterday. I think it was really cool for him to be there. It's his 3rd Counties Cup winner that he selected. He selected 120 stakes winners, so horses he's bought. And so then I posed him the question last night. I said, well, how many people are getting you to source these European mares? And I thought the answer would be 30 or 40 mares a year. Australasian wide, he bought 6 last year. And when you see this dominance of Europe and what we're seeing over the Melbourne Cup Carnival, and when you see, let's be honest, some of the struggles we're having with some of the sales at the moment, you do think to yourself, do we need to upgrade our breed by bringing in these sort of horses? And he said, look, I'm going to the sales next week and the week after up there for mares sales. And you do start to think, well, he's bought one for Cambridge recently, a couple for Valachi. Is this the sort of blood we need to be injected into New Zealand? And I know you can't just go up there and haphazardly buy horses, but the Australians seem to be very keen to buy staying male horses to try and win the Melbourne Cup, Bruce. But these mares are the sort of mares that are going to eventually upgrade our families closer to home and could be part of the future of the sales industry, I would have thought anyway.
Well, that's iGrain, who gave the bookies a migraine yesterday. What about those that were beaten in behind?
Matt, what'd you make of that?
Yeah, it was good. Just probably got out-toughed on an off track. He's a horse we don't know if he wants the 2,000 metres yet. He is quite brilliant over a mile and 14, but give him another go on a good track and he might out-sprint them and get away with it. But I think the track just stripped him up that last 100 metres being a younger horse against those older tough ones.
Yeah, look, a very gallant run. I was on the back of Maygrove the whole way. Pretty sure I'm the only horse to make ground up in the straight, you know. Deteriorating track conditions have suited him, and 53 kgs on his back has also assisted him.
Posed up nice early and travelled well, and just when I want to get going on the back of Mongolian Marshall, just couldn't sprint as well as he could, but she really found the line late, but hopefully she'll be better on a good track.
Yeah, nice run. She sort of travelled into it nice. When I got on the tail of Mongolian Marshall turning in, I thought she'd be a big chance, but didn't quite finish it off, but made a few wind noises pulling up after the race, so maybe a tongue tie on next time.
Look, he ran a good race. To be fair, look, I got well out of my ground with 60 kilos. Look, he came through them nice, but with 60 it was hard making ground. Good run.
Yeah, he was all right. He travelled up, but not too bad, but then just probably struggled in the ground a little bit. He couldn't really get a good footing to finish it off. He can probably finish it off better than that, but I think it's stale days, so it wouldn't surprise me if you see him over some 2-mile races.
And as Michael Guerin mentioned earlier, we start thinking about Christmas and New Year features and what sort of effect this might have on the City of Auckland Cup. The odds, we can check those out, and we've got $6 favourites top of the book there, Mongolian Marshall and iGrain, the first two home yesterday.
It's got the makings of a really good race, this. You see some of those horses in the market. iGrain now at $6 equal favourite. Rhinestone Cowboy's only had the 2 wins, so he's probably a little way away from making the field just yet. Terra Sancta, if they can fix her breathing issues, I think she's a horse we saw in Brisbane. It was really good, unlucky in a Queensland Oaks. She'd be the one I'd be looking at around that $16 quote. And of course, Giovanni Canaletto, looking forward to seeing him again. The $10 on his Hong Kong form looks very appealing. And
Michael, you're going straight to the 53 kilo line, whatever's there, you'll go.
Why would you change? Why would you change going for the horses on the lower weights, because they are just so dominant in these cups? Going back down into the earlier races here, and here's 2 horses who are going to end up in good races.
For sure.
Gundown's the horse second from the outside, and he has to really grind this win out over Demonetisation, who's in the blue and red poking through. Demonetisation looks the winner here on the home track, but Gundown just won't go away. Bruce, I would have thought these are 2 horses who are going to end up in serious races, but I would probably think different types of serious races.
Yeah, Demonetisation just got held up for a time. If he got first run, for sure he would have won the race. Gundown, it's only his second win. There's 2 very nice 3-year-olds from last season coming back in form. The little question, Demonetisation, he has to tick that top of the ground box.
Gundown's got options because he's only won the 2 races, so they were talking yesterday potentially Waikato Cup, again to get in the 53, that's if he gets in the field, whereas they still have the Dunstan Stayers, and he's a horse who would still be able, I would think, to sneak into that if they wanted to go that path. So, look, I thought the support racing there very strong yesterday, but still plenty of features to talk about, Rosso.
There certainly are. So Gundown $16 in that City of Auckland Cup market that we just looked at there. So we've sipped from the Counties Cup, and we'll stick the fork into the bowl right after this.
My job. Now I'm waiting in the rain for the bus, wondering how I'm supposed to pay for my rent tomorrow. I'll pay, steal or borrow, I'm still figuring it out.
Dropping back in distance now as we look to the Hanui Farm Counties Bowl over the 1100 metres, with of course a view to the upcoming Railway Christmas New Year. Bostonian here, going for 7th win in 10 starts. A horse that had trialled leading into this, Bruce, but there's always that query, but went out at $2.20.
He's putting together a good horse's record, Mark. He's now won 7 of his 10 starts. He comes out of a Sunshine Coast Guineas back in July, which incidentally was the race that Winx won to kick off her current run of successes. I don't think he'll be climbing to the Winx heights, but he's a very good sprinter. He gets into the box. He didn't jump away quite as quick as he can, but he's edging to the outside now. And this is a horse it's going to be a force in a race like the Railway.
No doubts. We'll look at the Railway market surely, but Vinny just looked confident here. He was just sitting up 3 wide thinking, look, I've probably got these covered. And I'm not sure how strong a race this is behind the winner because he beat them so easily. And many of our good sprinters were either down at Riccarton last week or they've come through other races and they're getting ready for the Railway. But look, he absolutely cruises away here. And we don't have a lot of sub 1400 metre horses in this country with Australian group form. We don't have many. And 2 of the big ones, the most obvious ones, are heading the market for that Railway because Melody Bell, let's not forget, as a 2-year-old was good enough to go to Australia and win at that level. And then Bostonian's done it as a 3-year-old. So they've come back as 4-year-olds now. I put to Tony Pike, I said, look, what do you make of that Melody Bell versus you? He said, look, you know, we can only have a go and find out, but a good boy and a good girl, strong, healthy 4-year-old horses in a sprint race, I think these 2 are set to dominate the summer if things go well over those shorter trips.
Well, let's hear from the connections. David Archer, Mufasa, his bride and joy had let out the cup field a little earlier, and Mufasa's in the family tree of Bostonia. Let's hear from David and also Vinny.
I only get nervous about certain races. Melbourne Cup I got nervous about. This one because you never know whether they're going to come back, and such a relief to see him show he wants to be a racehorse again.
Yeah, the signs were all encouraging from Tony, though. The horse stripped well and he trialled really well, so that must have given you heart.
It did, and he has a particular relationship with me, and that's one of putting his ears back and trying to bite me, and he did that today, so we thought we had a chance.
That's always a nice thing. You bite me to show that you like me.
I think he's just saying, you leave me be.
From here, sort of how high do you set your aspirations?
Well, Tony's certainly aiming for the Railway and Telegraph, and I think after that, have a think about it.
Very easy in the end, but luckily to get his campaign on way.
Yeah, good to get you excited for those Group 1 sprints coming up too.
Absolutely.
There's anything to look at there.
So Vinny Colgan there talking to Aidan Rodley post that victory of Bostonian. There are a couple of horses that got back and found the line well. Santa Monica, Popstar Princess, Power Dream was getting home as well.
Yeah, and importantly, they're all mares, so some black type for each of those. But Popstar Princess and Power Dream were coming out of a benchmark 72, so I'm just not sure the depth behind them, behind the winner here. Here's the market for the Railway.
Going to be a good race. I mean, obviously the top 2 have a huge advantage. As I said, they are Australian group-proven horses over shorter trips. We know now they've won at listed or better level this spring already, so they are ready to rock for the big one.
High Flyer is interesting.
Yeah, he's going in fresh, High Flyer. Sort of Osmond, I suppose they have to go back in trip, but I'm not sure he's up to open class, to be perfectly honest, on what I've seen this season when you look at this open class field, because Volpe Veloce is the defending champion. That's a nice top to the market. Start wondering, that'll be interesting whether he is a factor this season. And Ferrando, of course, adds speed to the race. So, look, it could be one of the minor highlights of the season, or the summer at least. Those 2 horses head-to-head. As I said, it's a very male-female profile of horses who have got similar achievements. Melody Bell's far more advanced in what she's done in her career, but I wouldn't be surprised if Bostonian could give her a bit of a fright, Rosso.
Okay. 2-year-old filly caught our eye yesterday. That was Bavella in the Spice Construction 2-year-old stakes.
Yeah, well, this filly, she's caught 3 wide for much of the race. As I said, it wasn't a huge disadvantage, and more so in this race because they went very slow, so it might have been a positive to be close to slow tempo, albeit a touch wide. We don't often see really good 2-year-olds before Christmas, but I think this is a special filly, mate.
I think a lot of people who have 2-year-olds they bought at Karaka last year watching this race will be extremely happy this horse, actually Karaka this year it was, wasn't bought at Karaka, because this would be as good as I've seen one go pre-Christmas, Rosso. Usually they keep them a bit cooler and then they start going Christmas or the eclipse on New Year's Day. When Leith goes for this one, it absolutely smashes them.
It doesn't really go for it, though.
No, and it's a home breed, so clearly it can't go to the Karaka Million because it's in the Lindsay colours. They bred the horse by Schnitzel, and sure, there's plenty of bad Schnitzels around, but the good Schnitzels are just very, very good. That's about as good as they go, Bruce.
Yep. Arlen Loon's good in second, Reliable Man is a 2-year-old. Watch the third horse, and we're just going to roll this on. Black Rocks Detox. Just watch how this horse gallops up out, and as if he's not going to be a force to be reckoned with either as a later as a 2-year-old in the autumn, or even some nice 3-year-old. Look at the big black horse just striding past Bevella there, so he's definitely got a tick going forward.
What they'll be looking to do is get some Group 1 with that filly, obviously, and the Sistema is the obvious one because she's owned by the Lindsays who own Sistema, and therefore they're looking at the second Tuesday. We'll hear from Brendan on a second Saturday in March. And then they have the back end option. They could go through the Matamata breeders to that, or they could go obviously to the size produce. But they've only won one Group 1, Joe and Brendan, and that's with Marky Mark. That was the size produce about 4 years ago. Now they own a stud. That gets really crucial. You know, a filly like this by Schnitzel out of Zonza, who's won in Australia, if they can get her Group 1 form, that could almost be the next level for them of having not a foundation broodmare, because obviously they have plenty of broodmares, but Bruce, that serious sales level broodmare that they're looking to have. So pretty exciting time for them, and here's a very excited Brendan Lindsay.
Boy, I think she's pretty special, this horse.
The pick in the race didn't really go to plan as well, sitting 3 wide early doors.
No, but he didn't bustle her. He just sat on her and waited for the right time. We just didn't want the others to get too far in front, so we're pretty happy with the ride, obviously.
Yeah. We spoke to Lance Snowball earlier in the week. He's sort of thinking, you know, autumn's going to be the time when you really start kicking goals. What do you do in the interim?
She might go in the paddock and have a little break. She's done enough. We want to win that Sistema race for obvious reasons, and that's been on the radar for a while, so that'd be nice.
Yeah. What about her? You know, you've been following her right through. You've had the family. When she's come out and won her first race, it must be really pleasing and really satisfying.
It's so exciting because, you know, you just look forward to the next one and you try not to get ahead of yourself, but, you know, a lot of people in racing like us, and, you know, it's just exciting to win, you know, regardless. But we've got black type for her, we've got black type for the mare, which we've got at home, and the mare's in foal to El Manzor, our new stallion, so it's exciting times for Joe and I.
Can you win with Save the Date as well?
God, I'd love to think so. I'd love that black type, eh? I tell you what, I really would.
Good on you, Brendan. Congratulations to you and Joe.
Thanks very much.
Brendan Lindsay there after the 2-year-old win of Bevella yesterday, which was another big tick on that card there at Pukekohe. A meeting at Awapuni yesterday, and we saw the feature there. We're going to check it out. It's the Bulls Country Cup, town that I drive through every Friday. Beefeater winning this very consistent horse here. Others to look out for: Scandalo, which Chris Johnson earns a suspension on, 6 days riding out, and Chance to Dance, the well-travelled horse in third.
Yeah, surprise leader, Chance to Dance in this, but he's kicked on nicely. Beefeater brought the right form to the race, made him an odds-on favourite. His placings behind Ocean Emperor and Windspell. He's produced early on the outside. He's got a pretty decent record, hasn't he? When you look at it in totality now, 30 starts, 7 wins, 15 placings. He's only been 8 times out of the top 3. So he's a really good, genuine horse, and he gets the job done here, Mick.
Look, he was there to be beaten. The inside horse wouldn't go away. The outside horse came late, so it's a nice performance. I need to ask you this, as an owner or a punter. If you back a horse, fixed odds, and it rocks up in the Santa's hat, what do you think? I respect the fact of what they're trying to do, but if I have a decent bet on Friday and the horse rolls out in the Santa's hat, I just go, oh no.
Is it the kiss of death, is it?
I just hate it. I hate it. Imagine if you spend a lot of time.
You got your lucky underwear as well.
You spend a lot of time in Asia, right? Imagine if you rocked a horse out at the Hong Kong meeting with a Santa's hat on. Could you imagine how the punters would go? I respect the fact that it's a promo, and I hate it. Well, a lot of trainers tell me that I don't want to ever race in their colours, and then you put a Santa's hat on them.
Well, Santa was tipping better than me on Friday night, Mark, also.
As I said, it just feels like the mock. I tell you the mock won't bother this horse. He's a good horse. Starry Beale in the support race at Awapuni yesterday. Stephen Marsh is training up a storm. This one is in the Go Racing colours, so squeezing in between them here, looking for a gap. Can't find it, so about 5th, one off the inside. Watch this unwind. Now, if this isn't a horse who can win the Dunstan Feeds Championship, I'll be stunned. Look at it come through here. Starry Beale, as Marshy is having a huge week at the office.
Wow, what a win! Got up to Blouse, Johnny Lincoln on the line. Juice Coop has
Fellas, you see one and you think, look, this is going to end up a Cups horse. And you're wrong sometimes, and you're right other times. Bruce, opinion?
No.
No?
It's a good win, but what's it beating?
Oh, that's... I'll go you this time next year. It's
Against
racing
two,
in the Counties
yeah,
Cup.
okay.
And
Okay.
I tell you
Take
what,
them this
it's close to favourite, I think, for the Dunstan Feeds final, because while a gun-down type horse could go there, they're probably going to go Waikato Cup. And you're suggesting to me Sacred Day, who we saw yesterday, really good, might go to the middle distance, the sort of 1500.
They've got 2 series now, the staying series and the 1500. Yeah. He'll stay around that and maybe later on try.
I think he's trained a stack of winners in the last couple of weeks, Stephen Marsh. By the way, his good 2-year-old who won the Wellesley at Trentham 3 or 4 weeks ago now. On track, very happy, going to the Eclipse on New Year's Day out of Ellerslie.
He got the last, didn't he, at Pukekohe there with King's Cross in a desperate finish. So he won at both venues yesterday. Stephen Marsh, Lisa Rawpress got 4 on the day. She rode half the card at that meeting at Awapuni, including the Cup winner that we just had a look at there. Very shortly here on Weigh In, we're going to chew the fat over a couple of issues. We're going to talk sales and tracks. Really get sick of these books. Home and Garden usually on the coffee table at home, but this ends up on top of it. These catalogues, I've just got a series of them over the years. Bruce, sometimes I don't even get to open them because I'm not necessarily in the market, but New Zealand Bloodstock's ready to run sale during the week. There's 2 words I don't like put together, blood and bath, but that was mentioned this week. What happened?
It's often a cyclical sale. We see 2 or 3 good years and then a correction, but this wasn't a correction, it was a massive decline.
So passing rate was 68%?
Yeah, which is on a par with actually the 2 Australian sales earlier in the year,
okay.
The ready to runs.
So do we put that down? Let's start at home. Is that because of the lack of a strong domestic market for some of these horses, because of the concerns about stake levels at home and the future of the industry?
Yeah, well, we'll look at some of these figures shortly. We've brought up in a graphic, but the domestic buy was down by 1.2 million. That's slightly exaggerated by the fact that Mongolian Khan's owner, Mr. Wolf, actually buys under the New Zealand banner. So without his spend, he didn't buy last year. We were down by 2 million. We're down by a number of horses as well. So if that's not another neon sign of distress in the industry that hopefully someone in the beehive's noticing, I don't know what is. Australia's down. Key talking point, 3.8 million less spend. Talk of a move towards a bigger spend in Europe in the tried horse market. Also some rumours going around that some of the major trainers have yet to sell yearlings from earlier in the year. So maybe there's that is not quite as vibrant as we may have expected. Hong Kong down also by nearly 3 million. That may be largely due to less competition at that end of the market, less horses. We've got the Hong Kong Jockey Club with their own sale, the Griffin sale now, so maybe that's having an impact on the horses they're buying. Singapore, it was good to see there was no knock-on from the decrease in prize money announcement last week. So they're still buying up well, but yeah, some worrying signs.
Okay, so people take horses home from the sale and they haven't sold, and in the past there's the thought that you could get them up, trial them up, get rid of them to Singapore or Hong Kong, hopefully. Is that not as easy as it used to be? Like,
it's not going to be easy in the next couple of months
because of the glut of horses here now?
Yeah, okay. That's your option. If you've brought a horse to trade, you haven't sold it at this sale, then your only option is to trade now out of a trial or a race.
Okay, so what has caused this? Like, are they not the right type of horses? Is there an issue here with the type of horses they're trying to sell? This is your domain, so yeah, well, what has caused this downturn in your opinion?
Well, I think the key factor in terms of Australia is a key market, and with the move towards European horses, is it temporary or permanent? That's the question we've got to ask ourselves. A lot of Australian trainers now are buying out of Europe. We've seen Lloyd Williams. I know he's had great success, but he's put millions into European horses and has not got a fraction of the return of what he's put in. So will this temporary move to European tried market be a flash in the pan, or is this something we should be worrying about long term?
But surely this market is a market which is predominantly aimed at guineas / more importantly Derby's Oaks horses.
It's been a very good Asian sale.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Ginger Nuts, so the horse who won the Derby last year, Vin de Dance came out of the Red. So if that's what you're trying to sell, because you're not trying to sell slipper winners out of this sale, and no one can say they're trying to sell a cup winner because they're so far away. I don't understand how Europe would affect the Derby / Oaks, maybe even smaller guineas market, because you can't buy those horses in Europe. So that's the confusion for me. Why the Australians who would have tried to buy, for example, Vin de Dance 2 years ago weren't here trying to buy these horses. And Ginger Nuts, like it's proving to be a very good Derby sale.
But then at the end of the day, the domestic market's buying less than 25%. And you just can't have that in your home country. There's no underlying market.
OK, if you doubled stakes, say, for example, we're on 10,000 minimums and we go to 20,000, would you go buy a horse at the sale because of that?
I'm probably not, no.
No.
So a doubling, we need more than a doubling of stakes.
OK. See, is that achievable? See, like, we're talking about doubling stakes as being the road mark for the Massara report, but
if you're running for 70,000 on a Saturday, then you'll go and buy a horse, won't you?
I'll go buy one regardless. Because I do agree with the trading market. A lot of horses now come into play for the trials, and you've got to be so good at the trials now to have a trading horse. Do you see that whole market moving? Do you think the Asian market is tougher now than it was 3 or 4 years ago?
We've seen,
for what reasons?
We're seeing less horses going to Hong Kong. They're very stringent now on their vet checks. It's quite difficult to get a horse through their pre-purchase examination.
Are more European horses coming down to Hong Kong? You see?
Not particularly. I don't think there's been no major change, but you've also got the Hong Kong Jockey Club's own sale now, which is taking a bit out of the market.
But don't they buy horses here, then flick them on at their sale?
Yes. Okay. It's the first time they've actually bought at the ready to run. They normally buy yearlings, breeds them up and have their own trading.
OK. But Singapore, I thought Singapore, with the drop in stakes announced last week, might struggle more here. Dot Logan was obviously there, and now she's listed as a Singapore trainer, but I thought that was actually better than I expected.
I think it was. Everyone was expecting a drop there. They've cut their top-end prize money by 25% and just decided not to run a couple of feature races. But at the end of the day, their open handicap each weekend's worth 100,000 Singapore, so it's still good money.
OK. Do you think there's going to be less pinhookers at the yearling sales this year?
This will roll on and hurt in that respect, though the pinhookers are probably not going to be as active at Karaka in January.
And the pinhookers don't tend to be K1 buyers as much as they tend to be select book sale, what they used to call now book 2 buyers?
They'd still be buying some good stuff to trade over.
OK.
Were there some highlights, Bruce?
Savabill's great. The domestic stallions sold well, and of course Savabill's been a great stallion. So there were some. At the end of the day, the good horses still sold well. There just perhaps wasn't the competition even at the top end of the market.
The other thing too is, I mentioned earlier, we go back to the iGrain situation. You know, there's a greater awareness now of what you can buy in Europe if you're that way inclined, and it's not for everybody. Of course, it's not, but. There are people there who think, OK, well, I might get a Paul Moroney to get me a mare because it'll have different blood to the horses here, because a lot of people who have horses here have this blood already in their families. And if they're looking to bring something different in, you know, there's a secondary option there. So if the Aussies are going to go European blood mad, which they appear to be doing at a certain level, then you can see how people start thinking, well, maybe I'll spend my 200,000 trying to get the next iGrain rather than my 200,000 trying to get the next Vin de Dance. So it's a complex matrix going on here, Bruce, but it can't have been a satisfying result for anybody. And NZB, I don't think were bullshitting anybody. I think they were pretty realistic about the fact that it was a correction of a decent amount.
Well, the Northern meeting that was to be run normally midweek, obviously, but because of the ready-to-run sales, it was due to be on the Tuesday, and it was Waipa at Te Awamutu, but unfortunately, gentlemen, it did not even get underway. The track leading in had been a good 3, then they got rain, and obviously we're seeing here a track inspection, which ultimately brought about the abandonment of yet another meeting, only a couple of hours after NZTR had put out some track preparation protocols that we'll look at shortly.
Looks like Opie knew what was going to happen. Hasn't even got his jumpers on.
It's It's the curse, isn't it, of we have so much wet track racing in winter, and then once the tracks get hard here, unless you have irrigation, a little bit of rain and it becomes a skating rink, and that's a real issue. And that's predominantly been one of the issues with some of the southern tracks also, which get really rock hard. But let's hear from Tony Pike, who's the boss of the Trainers Association, about irrigation, about this particular track and what it could mean for track rationalisation around the country.
Look, it's becoming an unfortunate occurrence, and it's happening far too often, unfortunately. Look, Waipa is prone to it, you know, through the spring and summer months, as sort of history will tell us. You know, we talk about rationalisation of clubs. I think, you know, if we look at Waipa, nothing against the club. I've raced horses there for years. There's a lot of good, hard-working people there, but look, they're sitting on a very valuable asset. The club's obviously, you know, financially strapped for cash. They need to improve their track significantly to make it a safe racing surface. Can the industry afford to keep doing that and propping them up? That's a big question mark. So I think we need to, this is probably part of the rationalisation of courses throughout New Zealand. Waipa is probably a prime example in the situation we're in. Does the industry throw good money after bad trying to save a course that, you know, is having too many abandonments? Or is it better off to utilise its asset, which is significant, for the betterment of the industry going forward? So, you know, this could be a bit of a case study, you know, possibly for other clubs throughout the country. Because, you know, we just cannot continue to have this happening. Jockeys have got no confidence to ride there, and it's going to get to the stage, you know, trainers, you know, aren't going to want to race their horses there because we just don't know if the races are going to go ahead, let alone sponsors that are sponsoring races looking for a good day out. It's just very unfortunate circumstances.
Okay, I guess it's a case where any club could find themselves in that position if they don't have irrigation. Is irrigation a key sort of talking point with clubs and meetings going ahead?
Yeah, look, I think if you talk about irrigation, yeah, certain people are for it, certain people are against it. But obviously, you know, with you know, animal welfare and horse safety, we need irrigated courses. And obviously, through the summer months when you know, we don't have a lot of rainfall and we get a shower of rain on an extremely firm track, this is the situation that occurs. So, you know, we can't afford to take the risk of non-irrigated tracks through the summer. And I think that's probably you know, part and parcel of what NZTR needs to look at when they're doing their programming going forward.
Tony Pike there, President of the Trainers Association. I mean, clearly you can sense the frustration, but also he's trying to keep it extremely rational and reasonable a conversation, which clearly he needs to, because if things are going to progress, it really is about people joining together with a common cause.
Yeah, well, first things first, it sucks. It just sucks, because if you're trying to trade a horse, as I mentioned in the last conversation, and you want to take it to the races to get a good performance, this isn't a setback of one race. These are sometimes setbacks which take you months and months to recover from. Secondly, I'm not sure about this, so I'm going to ask you about this, Bruce. There's a school of thought that, yes, you should water the track so this doesn't happen, they don't become skating rinks. And there's a thought that back in the old days they were never watered and you just let nature take its course. Now, what's your view on that? Because obviously it seemed to work all those years ago. Why does that system not work now?
Personally, as an owner, I don't want to see my horses running on firm ones, good twos.
But didn't they do that 30 years ago? I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying they should, but I'm saying, didn't they do that 30 years ago? Are the horses not as tough now as they used to be? I don't understand.
I don't think they are as hard as they used to.
They find a bone, don't they? And
that European influence.
The same as the standard breed.
Yeah.
But the underlying problem is our racing surfaces are pretty disgraceful.
Yeah.
We haven't got a track that can handle much more than 20 meetings a year. That's not good enough. In this day and age, there should be 3 or 4 New Zealand tracks that can handle 40 meetings a year. And
okay.
We don't have that.
So we get to this synthetics tracks all-weather greenfields project. So one thing, first of all, synthetic track at Cambridge, which becomes raceable, and then the greenfields project, which is building a whole new place in the Waikato. Why would you build an all-weather track at Cambridge, which eventually you're going to close, to then open a different venue as a greenfields venue?
They have a life cycle in all-weather track of about 10 years.
Yeah.
So that gives you the time to build the track. You also are going to have to be taking a lot of racing while you've got the tracks closed.
Yeah.
It's a bridge.
Yeah. So the all-weather track at Cambridge isn't something you would see, because you know a bit about this, as being a permanent thing. It'll be there forever.
No, not at all. No, it's a bridge and it's a link. And the beauty of the all-weather track being at Cambridge is the ability to use it 365 days of the year. You've got 1,200 horses training there now, trials, jump outs, reducing costs for owners as well.
Well, so I think Tony Pike made a really interesting point about you've got to look at these as a case study, because we all know that there's going to be a number. That number could be 10 or 20 tracks closed in the next 5 years. That was a key tenet of the Masara report. But it's the same question we had 3 months ago. It's the same question we're going to have in 3 months. Everybody's fine with that number. They just don't want it to be their track.
Sure.
And you know, we've all got personal tracks we love, and the people at Waipa don't want to see their track closed. But it becomes really hard to sustain that argument when you keep losing race meetings.
I think that if there hadn't been a track in Reefton, for example, where Rion Merthyr and my father grew up, would I be here? Would Sheldon have been here last week, back next week? I don't know. It's hard to know. But if the racing's not being taken to the people there, where they grow up, would they have been interested? If there wasn't a rugby club in your town growing up, would you play rugby?
And it's easy to think that's only a racing story, but it's exactly the same. I grew up in a town where there was no cricket because it was too wet to play cricket in Greymouth much. So you never meet anybody in Greymouth who cricket is their biggest deal. You know, where rugby and league are in racing. And I think if you're a kid, you don't go to the races. And the question is, how far would you go to the races? Most of us go down the road. Most of us don't go 50 kilometres with the kids to go to the races. But also, balancing that fact out, we can't sustain poor tracks. So we're going to lose 20 tracks. As I said, the question is, no one wants it to be their track. And then you get to the bigger question, you know, the closing of Te Rapa to fund a greenfields project in Waikato. Well, Te Rapa's a pretty big place. Hamilton's a big joint. And if you had no racetrack in Hamilton because they closed Claudelands about 15 years ago, then all of a sudden you're starting to say, well, people who live in Hamilton drive 20 or 30 Ks with the drink driving rules they are now to go to the races. And I'm not saying it's an easy thing to fix, I'm just saying that they're relevant problems, Bruce, because unless you have racing in your community, sometimes racing doesn't become part of your life.
NZTR have put forward some protocols, and these actually came out on the day, but prior to
2 hours, ironically, prior to the abandonment.
Each thoroughbred racing venue required to prepare and lodge an annual track management plan with NZTR beginning this season. And I would have thought that might have been happening anyway, but clearly that hasn't been, so that's obviously a good thing. The return to racing is an interesting situation too, where we have tracks that have maintenance. Let's say Otaki is a recent example, and then they may have a few trials, but you're only talking about 4 and 5 horses going around at a time as opposed to 12 or 14.
It's not the Sotaki, it's Ellerslie. Sure. Ellerslie would be in that situation, and obviously they don't have those issues, but...
The track advisor, Todd Treweek, this has got to help, doesn't it, having somebody that is kind of a go-to that can bring all this together? Somebody experienced, as he is.
Here's the question for you. Who's going to close these tracks? Who's eventually going to do it? Because it's not going to be Winston Peters. Winston Peters is the Deputy Prime Minister. He's not going to walk around closing racetracks. And NZTR seem to have their boat full of things they're doing. They've got a future venues plan, but who's actually going to make these decisions and say, you're not getting a licence, you're closed? Who's going to do it, and when's it going to happen? Because there doesn't seem to be a lot of momentum in that, Bruce.
There's none. It's very quiet. It's deathly silence.
Can I ask one brief question too?
You're in charge, you can do whatever you want.
I have a mental block around synthetic tracks. I've never had a bet on a synthetic track. I don't know. Is that just irrational?
I love them.
Okay,
I've been with them in Asia.
Yep.
I would rather have a good bet on a synthetic than a turf track.
Okay.
Even when a turf track's good, you start thinking, was it too good? Is it too firm? But you get the same surface every week.
I'm taking that on board, Michael.
I don't particularly love them, but the first time I back a winner, I'll like them a lot more, to be honest. And I do think you'd need to do your form around it, but it's pretty easy. Look, it's pretty easy to adapt to something once you want to get used to it. The most importantly is, I know one thing: nobody backed a winner at Waipawa on Tuesday.
That's a fact.
Good point.
The word international's come up probably about as many times as the word Reefton today, but we'll look international right after this.
Horlicks just in charge, the Kiwi from Oguri Cap. The two greys settle down to it with 250 metres to go. Horlicks the inside of Oguri Cap, 200 to go. Horlicks just shading Oguri Cap, which is coming on strongly. O'Sullivan getting desperate on Horlicks on the inside. Oguri Cap trying to peg it back, going to the post. Horlicks is going to hang on. Horlicks, the Kiwis get the money from Oguri Cap, about ahead.
It is Japan Cup night. That was 29 years ago, 1989 Horlicks, one of the great international race memories, along with, say, Sunline and Ferry King Prawn in 2000 and Kiwi, I suppose, in 1983 in the Melbourne Cup. Bruce, how well do you remember that in Hobby's call?
Yeah, the dulcet tones of one Keith Hobb, brilliant. It's probably one of our greatest efforts on the world stage.
Probably alongside Belmarino running second on the arc,
Yeah,
and Far Lap and Agua Caliente, I suppose. Just with Keith Hobb, George Simon's done an off the track with him, and there's part 2 of that's tomorrow night or Monday night. If you're watching this on Monday night, you've missed it. It's on 7:30 on Monday. He's one of the great characters, Hobby.
Yeah.
New Zealand racing's built on people like him. One of the other great characters, so Japan Cup Sunday night, if you're watching this on Sunday morning. One of the 8 other great characters of New Zealand racing, different size, is James McDonald. And very good news. James McDonald could be coming home for Boxing Day, New Year's Day and the Karaka Million Night. Now here's Longleaf. This could be the horse he's coming home to ride in the Karaka 3-year-old Classic. It's partially owned in New Zealand, sold out of Karaka for obvious reasons, and running third here in the Sounddown Guineas last week. Now trained by Hayes Derminick. It's been there and thereabouts. It was a one-time favourite for the Karaka Million last year. It was also one-time favourite for the Blue Diamond last year. Good horse, and they are looking to bring it home for the Karaka Classic, which could potentially put it against Media Sensation in Madison County.
And Media, yeah, Madison County.
And James would be booked to ride it if it came home for that Saturday. Spoke to James this morning, and he said he's keen to come home and ride Boxing Day and New Year's Day. But obviously he doesn't have any rides yet. I said, well, James, trust me, once people know you're coming...
Where's the phone number?
Exactly, shouldn't be too much of an issue. So he'll said if he gets good rides, he'll ride. Otherwise, he'll come home and see the family. But
you're right.
I think it'll be awesome. To have James home at his home track. Ellerslie is still his home track.
Yeah.
Bruce, people have their jockeys booked, and that's fine. But if you don't have a jockey booked for a group race at Ellerslie, well, that problem might have just been solved.
Yeah, he's establishing himself as one of the greats in the world.
Yep, yeah, so, and you need that for the...
You do,
when
you
you
need
have
to celebrate these people.
When you have Huey and those guys come to the Karaka Million night, it just changes the dynamic.
Yep.
And having James home, because it is home, would be awesome, guys. So good news coming out this morning, potentially Boxing Day, New Year's Day and Karaka Million night for him.
So. Okay, well, I hope I haven't changed the dynamic of today too much, the way in, so thanks for having me in, boys.
Pleasure, thank you.
All Reefton people are the same.
Is that good?
It's a great thing. You know, Reefton was the first place in the Southern Hemisphere to have street lighting, electric street lighting.
Read the book, Bottled
Did you?
Light.
That's true, isn't it?
It's absolutely true. My uncle wrote the book too.
Did he
He wasn't
really?
there at the time.
Oh, there
he
you
didn't
go.
turn the switch on.
Talented family.
Okay, that's us for Wayne. Thanks to Bruce and to Michael. I think Sheldon's back in the chair next week. Alicia Collett may make an appearance as well. Have a good week.